Nagrywam je.
Nie, co robisz na rekonstrukcji?
To znaczy było.
Pracowałam dobrze przez rok jako customer service. Rzeka oddajesz bagaż. To prosta praca, ale fajna. To był pierwszy mój rok tutaj. Czekaj, jeździsz, bo ja musiałam na tym, że 2 godziny zajmować.
Does anyone mind? Does anyone mind if Julian records it because he wants to see how stupid we look for it? If anyone minds, raise your hand. Right, he's just gonna see. He's just gonna record it from above. Does anyone mind? No one mind?
Guys have just been made famous.
America's finest home video.
For everybody else to understand. All right.
Oh, finally, here we go. You mean for
Yeah. It's called Picasso at work.
Yeah.
It was sent to a laptop. Thank you very much.
Right, thank you so much, Adam.
All right. We're going to be doing a presentation on two models of exit from communism, Central Europe and the Balkans by Rupnik. You know our names. So I'm going to go into the history of the author. The author is actually an acclaimed scholar in Soviet studies. He has an MA in Soviet studies from Harvard University, a PhD from the University of Paris. Some of his achievements over his lifetime is Executive Director of the International Commission to the Balkans in 2007. He has also been advisor to the European Commission. He's also a guest professor in Harvard and the University of Europe, the College of Europe. He's also been assistant to the President of Czechoslovakia from 1990 to 1992. He's from France.
Okay, he starts his argument from asserting that today the term post-communism is not relevant because it's really difficult to find some similarities among the countries which belong to Soviet bloc. For example, it's really difficult to find anything similar between Poland and Kazakhstan or Kyrgyzstan and Czechoslovakia or Czech Republic as it is now. And he argues that these countries exited from communism, they still follow some patterns, similar patterns. And he describes two groups in his article. First group is, as he puts it, a related success story. It's Central European group and the Baltic states. The second group, which is not so successful or relatively backward, if you compare it to Central Europe, is Balkan group. Examples of the first group are such countries as Poland and Czech Republic, which are rather economically developed. Czech Republic is now in the first tenth of most developed countries in Europe. The second group can be represented by such countries as Albania or Macedonia, which really have political and economical problems. In our opinion, the major reason for those differences in development is the empirical history of those countries. it's clearly seen that countries which belong to Habsburg Empire, to Austria and later Austro-Hungary, they are much more developed than those which belong to Ottoman Empire. And we will touch upon these differences later in our presentation. Here you can see a picture.
Alright, and the next topic goes into its development. Rupnik refers, first of all, both the states, just because countries share communism, Soviet style, doesn't mean that the transition to democracy will be the same. It is the past before the Soviet Union which will play a key role in shaping how democracy will be implemented in a newly democratic Eastern European state. So it's just a little bit touching on what Stanislav stated that the Habsburg Empire and the Ottoman Empire draw very big differences in how they influence the two separate regions. The author then refers to Ralph Dahrendorf's essay entitled The Essay on the Revolution in Europe, where Dahrendorf states three interlocking areas of change. 1, 2, 3, and 3 are political democracy and the rule of law, which takes 6 months to implement, conversion to a market economy 6 years, and the emergence of a civil society 60 years. He also refers to, in quotes, time management, or as he calls it, management manages time well. In Central Europe, he refers to as Central Europe manages time well. And what he means by this is they're able to implement all 3 steps continuously and together. While the Baltic states, they don't implement together, and the Balkan states don't implement all 3 time management techniques together, so they're not as successful. He calls the Balkans derailed, and he mentions the problems with borders. Sometimes the borders aren't concrete and they change. This causes tension in the area, and it all at the same time prevents the 3 steps to be implemented together.
Then Rupnik offers 6 hypotheses, or rather factors that we have to look at to explain those gap in development between those groups. First is legacies of communism. As you can see, second is market and civil society, no bourgeoisie, no democracy. Third is the rule of law and the Gothenburg factor. Nation-state building and homogeneity, cultural backbone of democracy, and international environment. We will touch upon each of those factors later in our presentation. We will start from the legacies of communism. And to explain the differences between those groups, one should look at the different natures of the communist regimes they had. For example, the three crises in each of the groups were caused by different circumstances. For example, in Central European countries, Central European crises, all of them were caused by the desire of the people to access free market, to have democratic states, and those crises communism in Balkans. First one was in 1947-48, Tito's break with Stalin, breaks with Joseph. The second one, 1961, Polsci's break up with Soviet Union and his transition to another patron, China. And 1968, it's really hard to see. Nicolae Ceausescu's bid for independence in Romania. Those crises were caused by the desire for greater autonomy from Soviet Union and for desire to strengthen the totalitarist features of the states. So this one is one of the major differences between those 2 groups, and clearly we should pay attention. Okay, and that's how transition.